Hey everyone, welcome to our high-level podcast called the Spotlight Sessions, where we bring in top players and industry, leaders in the world of marketing and agency service providing SaaS, you call it. We spot out great people in our community and have them come on to our session and do a podcast with us. Now, the cool part is I can call Stephanie a friend. I can call someone that I looked up to over the years, to be honest. And I met Stephanie in one of the inner circles of, I believe, Billie Jean. We
Yep.
connected with a ton of people there over the years, and I met her in person several times. Stephanie, welcome to our podcast. It's so exciting to finally be able to, first of all, get scheduled, then second, actually, really share your story to our entire community.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. And I appreciate your diligence because it was quite a deal to get scheduled, wasn't it? But here we are, and I'm so thankful and grateful to you and to the whole high level team. I mean, what a journey, high level from 2016 being in Billie Jean's mastermind, just trying to figure out how does this whole thing work, to just seeing high levels growth with Robin and you. And it's just been absolutely amazing to see this journey.
I love it. Yeah, and I think you're gonna find this type of common pattern across the industry where you meet somebody in a mastermind and then they later on do something really cool that you're a part of, and
Yep.
you're gonna all have your own journeys and stories. Now, if for those of you that may not know Stephanie, let me just share some notes on Stephanie. Stephanie is a seven-figure agency owner, recognized marketer, speaker, author, and a coach with a docket of praise from industry shift marketing experts, from what I know. But perhaps most importantly to her, she's helped hundreds and hundreds of her clients build their business and make an impact with what they're destined for. Now, the cool thing is, since 2016, from being a homeschooling mother of four, if I'm right, yeah,
That's
despite
right.
all the odds, you built a seven-figure agency with a team behind you. So I'm excited to share that story and to kind of keep our conversation organized. We're going to talk about your journey. We're going to talk about the shiny object syndrome as our second thought. And then maybe the third thing we can talk about scaling with the team. But Stephanie, tell us what your story is
Oh
when it
my
comes to
gosh.
going from that homeschooling mama to a seven-figure agency operator.
Yeah, so it's it's kind of a crazy story. Um, and I'm so grateful whenever I look back now, because when you're living it, whenever you're living your kind of your story where things are going to change, you don't realize it in the moment, I don't believe. And so for me, it was all about survival, right? So my husband was working three jobs. I was working 40 hours a week at home with a friend of mine who had a business, and I was helping her. And I was so new in this digital marketing space. And she was feeding me courses so I could learn how to build webinars and do all these things. And I was like, what's a webinar? Like, I didn't know. But what she knew about me was that I was techie. So I love technology. My background actually was in network engineering. So helping computers talk together. I actually dropped out of high school. So I'm a high school dropout from my junior year. And but I just knew what I knew, that I loved computers, and I dropped out to go to a vocational school to learn about network engineering. And so I did that at 17, and it was something I really loved. But then I started my family, and so anyway, fast forward many many years, lots and lots of stories there. But we're gonna skip all that, and we're coming to a moment where we're seriously struggling financially. We have our fourth baby. I'm nursing our fourth baby, our daughter journey, and working online 40 hours a week and just trying to do anything I can. I mean, I was selling LuLaRoe. At one point, I was hand carving candles, like trying to do anything I could to bring in some extra income because we just weren't making it. And it wasn't like we were living lavishly at all. Uh, it was just that we just weren't making it. We had a bathtub that wouldn't work. We couldn't afford to get fixed. Our fence was falling down in the backyard. We had it tied up with ropes. It looked so bad. Just couldn't afford to have a professional come in and fix these kind of things. And so basically the job that I had when I was working 40 hours a week, the business was sold. And so I wasn't going to have a pathway. And one thing I haven't mentioned up until now is that I have four beautiful kids, but I was also homeschooling. And these kids are out of the box kids. I don't know how to make just a run of the mill kid. They're all out of the box and amazing and incredible. I now have, they're 10, 16, I'm sorry, 11, 16, 18, and 22. And
Oh,
so
wow.
it's insane. I can't believe I have two adults. It's so crazy. But at this time, they were so much younger, right? This is almost 8 years ago. And I was homeschooling them because they were out of the box kids, especially two of them that every time we tried the public school system, not to knock the public school system, but it was just not a good fit, not a good fit at all. And my kids weren't thriving there. So I knew homeschool was our path. And I wanted to spend that time with them. I value my motherhood journey just as much as I do my entrepreneurial journey. And my goal was to be able to be at home with my kids. And so I could technically go and work in corporate and make lots of money, working in computers, network rooms, and all sorts of stuff like that. But that was not my heart. My heart was to just be able to stay at home with my kids and homeschool them. So anyway, the company is sold. I'm not going to have a job in a month, and I am freaking out.
Oh
And
my gosh.
yeah, like I'm like, I don't know what we're gonna do. Like my husband can't work another job. We are already just barely making it with what I was bringing in. It was just barely a reprieve, a little bit. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I have to figure out something. And they had fed me so many courses. One of them was Billie Jean's Clicks into Customers, which is where we met. And then it was Amy Porterfield's Webinars That Convert and Jeff Walker's Product Launch Formula. And they'd sent me to a social media marketing world. And so I had this like deep dive into this whole world. But I was still so new. And I remember laying in bed that night, nerves just getting the best of me and like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And thinking, what if I reached out to this local chiropractor and I asked him if I could run some Facebook ads for him? Because like Billy said I can do it, right? And so like if Billie Jean tells you can do something, surely you can do it, right? And so
Oh man.
I did that. My husband was like, of course you can, like try it, do it. And so I reached out to that local chiropractor and I ran some ads for him, blew up his practice. Like he was flipping his lid. He made around 60K that month. And he was like, what do we got to do to keep this going? And so I was like, I don't know. And so we talked about it and I was like, what if we do a webinar? Because I'd taken Amy Porterfield's Webinars That Convert. And so we did this webinar and he invited other chiropractors to this webinar that he knew. And we told him what we did for him and kind of pulled back the curtain. And I had 10 chiropractors on that call, and 9 out of 10 of them signed up afterwards at a $1,500 a month rate. That was more money. Y'all, I get emotional about it even now. Like
I
the
feel
most I'd
like
ever.
I feel like I don't know if it was 2015 or 16. I remember you like posting in like Billie Jean's like I think it was called School of Genius or one of those groups or Gene Pool or whatever. I remember one of those like Facebook groups where you would post about like certain wins or like something that worked. And I feel like I remember you talking about this webinar, this like big aha moment. And I think like we're all cheering for you. Like I remember like there was like some of the top players in high level community today were in that group. I mean, I'm
Yes,
telling
yes.
you, it was really cool seeing bouncing wins off of each other. And what was fascinating to me is that you're an action taker and you just went all in on it. And I can't imagine the stress that comes with it as well. So can you help us understand what happened next?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, I figured out how to take money through PayPal. I didn't have Stripe at that time. And I took their first payments and I had a $7,000 day. And at that point in my life, I'd never made more than probably $3,800 in a month. And that was very recent when I had been hired by my friend. And so I was just flipping out, like not even believing. And I want to just tell you guys, like I don't come from I lost my dad whenever I was 7 years old to bone cancer. My mom was extremely sick my tween and teen years. I was pretty much alone. We didn't have any family. Um, I didn't have school support. Like I don't have some kind of preset awesomeness that should have prepared me or made a pathway for me. Except for that, I had learned how to be a survivor. And I knew at that moment, if I wanted to be at home with my kids and if I wanted to be able to contribute to my family, then I had to figure something out. And so, literally, it was like jumping off a cliff and just building a plane on the way down, is what it felt like. And so, every day I got up, it was insane because, I had Billie Jean. As soon as I had that day, I bought into School of Genius, right? Because before I was just in his course. And then I was like, oh no, I got to be in a mastermind. I got to be with people who have done this before. And man, I still remember I had a little Word document that I would print out with a checklist for my onboarding for each one of them so I wouldn't forget a step. And it was just the most insane time. And man, I dove in, I leaned into the resources I had, I made mistakes, and I did it very, very, very scared. Like I would sometimes wake up in the morning and have to literally, I had a playlist and I would pray and then I would play my playlist and I would fight through just this incredible imposter syndrome of like, who are you to think you can do this? Like, you're going to screw this up. You are not enough. You are not capable of doing this. Like, what are you even thinking? And I would have to overcome that for that day. And I would wake up and it would still be there the next day. And so it took so long for me to unlearn so much of what I had learned about who I am and what it means to be an entrepreneur and what the journey can look like. And so, man, it was so intense, but so beautiful. And so I built that, I began that journey of building the agency. And I did that while still nursing and homeschooling and doing the laundry, making the meals, doing all the things, still running a household. And, I wouldn't recommend it. It's hard. It was very, very hard. Lots of sleep lost. But I built the agency to when we were about at 12 clients. And at 12 clients, I was just about ready to pass out and pull my hair out because there's a lot going on with 12 clients and you're the only person. So that's when I made my first hire. I think that was about 6 or 7 months in. And yeah, we've been growing since then. I mean, we're 8 years in, only serving chiropractors. We serve local businesses and only chiropractors. And now I have a team of 18 and we have close to 70 clients. And
Yeah.
it's just been incredible. And there's so much obviously in between in those 8 years, but just that initial journey of having to fight through. And I know there's so many people in the high level community and in the entrepreneurial world that you get in and we all go through that same experience when you're first starting a business. I call it like the baby giraffe syndrome. I don't know if you've ever seen a baby giraffe after they're born. Like it's the worst thing trying to see them stand up and they fall all over the place. And a lot of times that's what it's like, but you kind of have to set your face like flint. And it's just like, I don't care how many times I fall. I don't care how scared I am. Like, I'm going to put one foot in front of the other. And
Yeah.
so that's really what this journey has been about for me is learning
Yeah.
how to grow enough for the next day. Now I can usually go for a couple of months now. I've definitely gotten my mindset much corrected from all the trauma and all the craziness that I've lived through. But it's still a battle, right? Because if it was easy, then everybody would be doing it, you
That
know?
is absolutely right. Well, first of all, I applaud you for being vulnerable and sharing your story. I feel like I witnessed all of it from like 2015, 16 days of, well, actually a lot of us, we were all juggling
Yep.
so many different things. And now it's really cool seeing how everybody in that world of 2016 that I'm referring to have grown to now they're,
Yeah.
really big businesses. Now, Stephanie, can you share more insight to the idea of the balancing act of family versus business. Like help us understand you as a CEO versus you as a mom. Like how does
Yeah.
your family differentiate that? Where are the boundaries that you've set? How have you been able to like kind of pivot your mind into focusing on client work versus like spending time with your kids? Like help us understand that before we go into our second topic.
Yes. Okay. So this is something I'm so passionate about because it's been something that has been top of mind because it's the worst thing in the world whenever you start a business and essentially you start a business because you want to be able to have time freedom and spend time with your kids and you don't want to be, controlled by the man or whatever, like you like freedom and that's a high value of mine. I hated it when I would have a unruly boss. And so you create this business to attain this freedom, but then all of a sudden you build a business to where you are your own captor. You created a job for yourself and you're the boss and your clients end up being the boss, which is sometimes worse. And so it is something that whenever that happens, it's a battle, right? Like you really have to battle to find quote unquote balance. But I'll have to be real with you, Paulson, and for everybody listening. I don't know that like a balance in the way that we think about it is actually truly possible. And I'm coming from the zone of like my children are top priority for me. I know not everybody comes from that space. I mean, we do because we love our kids, but like how we distribute our time and our energy, some people look at it like, well, they're going to respect me later on whenever they're older and they'll respect that I had to miss this and I had to miss that and all of these things because I afforded them this lifestyle. And I just vehemently disagree with that. Vehemently, like what our kids need is us. And so I've I've fought with this for so many years in my own journey because you have to hustle, you have to go after it, like you have to make it happen. But yet Was I willing to build an empire online and then lose the kingdom at home? Like 100% not. 100, 1000% not willing. And so, what I've learned for myself personally, and I actually have a podcast called the Powerful Parenting Journey podcast, and I interview these high achieving entrepreneurs that are 7, 8, 10 figure business owners. And I talk to them about this because the Powerful Parenting podcast, right? Like, so we're talking about parenting. How are you doing it? And there's a theme that has run across all those conversations that coincides with what I've found to be true in my life, which is that it's not necessarily about a balance. Like every day I spent the right balance between work and my kids. It's about rhythms and the flux of the ins and the outs from the work to the home. And so I feel like for me, I do have boundaries where I do my very best that I am off the computer by 5:30. And different seasons of my life, I'm off at 2 o'clock. And other seasons of my life, I'm not off until like 7 or 7:30, right? I try to always now, at where I am in business now, weekends are non-negotiable. I don't work on the weekends. I'm with my family. I'm in my home. I'm present with my kids. My phone is down. This is where I am. I'm mama, right? Um, but I will say that whenever the flux happens and in seasons when I needed to lean in or I had an event that I had to go to or whatever, then I was in high communication with my family. Hey guys, I love you. This is going to be crazy. Mama's going to go do this awesome thing. This is why mommy feels like this is important. And I do my very best to get their buy-in and help them understand my why for what I want to do. And I never feel like I don't need that. You know what I mean? Yes, I'm a business owner. Yes, I am a strong, independent woman. But I also know that we're a team, we're a family, and I always work to get their buy in. So some seasons and some time periods are more business heavy, and then others where it's like more family intense and heavy, where it's just like all the free time, we go on a trip, we do this, we do that. And I do think that there's somewhere in the middle where you have maybe a little bit more balance and it's a little more even across the board, but business is crazy. It's so crazy. You can onboard 5 clients or something, and your life just gets flipped upside down, or you have an employee that maybe moves on to a different position or something like that, or you have to change what your offer is. There's so many different things that happen over the course of a business life, and sometimes you have to lean in, and hopefully, you're always working to build an incredible team, and that's what I'm experiencing now, which you can't necessarily have at the beginning. I don't know anybody who's figured out how to have it at the beginning, but as you grow, you reach the goal where you have a solid team. So I have a team of 18. I could not be prouder to work with anybody than I am with this team. I just spent this morning with them. We did some training on the working genius, which is a personality style. And they're the reason I am able to do what I do today and have the freedom that I've always hoped for. I can have that because of this
Yep.
incredible team and having built that team. So is there a balance? I don't know. I think there's more rhythms and flows is what it is, but honoring that relationship with your family in those flows, that it's never like, hey, I'm just doing this and sorry guys, I'm building business for you, sorry, like no, like it's like we're in this together, here's what it's going to look like, let's kind of get your buy-in with this.
I love that. Here's what I know about building an agency. I do think it is the best personal development course that you will ever find in
Yes.
your life. I mean,
Yes.
the amount of roller coasters and waves and in and outs of complexity,
Yeah.
it's quite a bit. And Stephanie, let's pivot into the next thing that we had decided, which is the entrepreneurial squirrel syndrome, or the shiny object syndrome, as some people call it. And so 2016, I feel like there was maybe like 5 or 6 big courses that you can really even choose from. Today, it's hundreds and hundreds. There's so much
Yep.
information out there, so much content, so many strategies, so many experts, rightfully so. Um, what is your take on the entrepreneur getting distracted, and how do they prevent themselves from being distracted and putting those like guardrails up?
Yeah. Okay. So this I have such conflicting feelings about, and this is why, because shiny object syndrome is something that I have definitely done throughout my journey. I have built a Facebook ad course, a bot course. I have had a mastermind. I've done I still do coaching. That is something that will always be a part of my life. But I've done all of these different things, fractional CMO work, and all of these little side things, and because of who I am and what I know of myself, some of those things were actually important detours because they developed more of who I was. But while I gained value, did my journey suffer? Yeah, not my journey, but my main business suffer. Yeah. Could it have grown faster if I had stayed the course and not had shiny object syndrome? Yes, it could have. It really could have. But then I also look back at those little detours and I also realized that I grew so much as a person and learned about myself and got to serve some incredible people during those detours as well. So, but in general, whenever I'm looking for myself or I'm looking for a coaching client or whatever, like, is this truly a shiny object syndrome situation? Right? Like laying it out. And it always comes down to like, where do you want to be and what is your dream? Like, what are you driving towards? And then the question is the thing you're considering actually going to get you closer to that dream? For sure, for sure. Not like just because you're like stretching and you're trying to be like, oh, but it could if this. Like, no, like, are you going to sacrifice a portion of your dream in order to have a gratitude in the moment now? Because sometimes that's a lot of what it's about. It's about not wanting to do the deep work and the harder things. So instead, we get shiny object syndrome because if you're any bit of good, you're going to have lots of opportunity come your way. Like just tons of opportunity. Like you said, all the different courses. Oh, look, they're doing that. I could do that too. Totally. And yes, you probably can. You totally probably can go do that thing and you could probably be amazing at it. But what part of your dream and time frame do you sacrifice in order to go have fun and do that thing over there? Right. And so I always look at it and I always ask myself, with my dream in mind, does this thing actually serve where I want to be? And if it doesn't, it's an absolute no, even though it hurts really bad. So our agency used to serve everybody under the sun pretty much. We would run ads for webinars, e-commerce, like you came to us, I would be like, that sounds like fun. Let's do it. And I'm like, I can help you with that. And we would dive in and we would figure it out and I'd work on your funnel and we do these things. And at one point I realized that this is not scalable. This is not scalable. This has not created the life that I want. And this dream over here that I have is getting farther and farther away. And it hurt really badly because I was like, wait, I started this business in order to have time freedom and to feel great about my life. And I feel anything but right now because I have no time freedom. I'm staying up at night. I'm stressed out. I'm freaking out. Like, this is not what I want. And so I actually let go of over 40K a month in recurring revenue to say no more non-chiropractors and had to let go of all of that revenue, which so many people fight so hard just to get that much revenue. And I knew good and well I was letting go of that and letting these people go to some other agency that could help them. And I was going all in with chiropractic. Like,
Yeah.
this is something I can do. This is something I know, and this is scalable. It was kind of boring though. I mean, I look now and I'm like, okay, it really, really wasn't boring for very long, but that in my brain, it was like, I don't want to do that thing. I want to go have fun. I want to be creative. I want to solve this problem. I want that. But that was causing me to sacrifice my dream. And so, yeah, so shiny object syndrome is something that I just feel like it is kind of a part of our journey, but you always have to put any opportunity you have and put it right in front of your dream. If it is not directly aligned with that dream, then you got to think about the opportunity cost. And what is it going to cost you? What is it going to cost your dream if you say yes to that opportunity?
Yeah, I love that. You know, what's crazy, Stephanie, is I come across so many agency owners and a lot of them are very like excited, rightfully, and proud that they have this big custom shop. You know, they take on these massive projects and they're very like big branders, and I get that. And then when I ask them, hey, does your clients, call you at 9 p.m. at night? And usually the answer is not straightforward. And I'm just like, yeah, they're drowning. They're just not seeing that
Yeah.
they're drowning, you know? It's just it's crazy going through that shift. I don't know if you remember this book, Built to Sell or
Oh
something
my
like
gosh, it's one
that.
of my
Yeah.
favorites. It's one of my
Yeah.
favorites.
And it talks about a scenario of like this agency. I don't even remember where, maybe it was in California, but it talks about how they shift from big custom projects and they figure out that their most profitable offer was logos. And they would just do logos all day long, and it shifted the whole business. So it's cool seeing and you talking about that kind of a shift where you're letting go revenue, confirmed revenue for potential revenue, right? It's like, and
Yeah.
those of you that are watching here, results may vary. We're not
Yes.
making the we're not claiming that you're going to make any money off of listening to this, but we're telling you from experiences of like some of the things that Stephanie has gone through and others as well. So like help us understand how you made that shift from being this big, massive custom shop to, okay, I'm just going to focus on this boring thing temporarily when I can't really even be creative because it's really just Cairo ads. But you knew back of your mind you're building an assembly line for the future, right? You knew you
Yeah.
were building a process. Help us understand how you kind of mapped that out in your mind and kind of created processes around it.
Yeah, two things come to mind. So the first thing I will say, like, there's so much creativity to be found in Cairo ads because it was like it's a tough industry. As anybody, if you're listening right now, chiropractic is one of the toughest industries to stay in. And I'm really proud. I tell people at different agency masterminds I'm in doing, we serve chiropractors, and they're like, oh.
Yeah, it's like everybody has some chiropractic clients.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so it's a difficult industry. So like there was a lot of work to be done there, but the answer to that is it all goes back to Billie Jean. Shout out to Billie Jean. So one of the things he did he did this interview with me, which is super smart. So two lessons from this. I had great success. So I'm a client of Billie Jean's, right? I'm in School of Genius, and I had my first $7,000 day. I'm freaking out. I signed up for School of Genius, and Billy's like, let's get Stephanie on the phone, right? Like, let's get Stephanie on a call because what does he want to do? He wants to elevate my story to his students to give them belief and also to get people to buy, right? And so Billy gets me on this call right away. And what he does, and so this is lesson number one is Billy, this whole entire call, I was almost taken aback by it because he just uplifted me like you would not believe. Like, man, Stephanie, you're such a rock star. You're the action taker. And I'm like, Billy, you gave me the pathway. Like it was your course. And like it was almost like this like back and forth catching, but he kept pushing so hard of like, look what Stephanie has built, you guys. Homeschooling mother of da da da. And I'm like, wow, I don't feel like I deserve this. Like and
It's like
and, and
it's
so
a lot of
what
accolades, and that's
yeah.
Billy's style of hyping everything up.
Yes, and he was hyping me up. And so that was lesson number one. I look back on that, like, gosh, man, he's so smart. That was so smart. He once told me that at that time period, when he told me, he said the ad that they made from that interview made more money than almost any of his other ads. And if you know Billy, he made all Wolf of Wall Street, all these incredible, crazy ads. And because of the story, and he knew that right then and there. So lesson number one. Lesson number two is while I was on that call, Billy goes and pulls looks like a copier, like it was on top of a copier in this gargantuan binder, and he's like, Stephanie, document everything. And he's showing me this in this paper binder of all of the SOPs and all of that stuff inside of this binder that runs the business. And oh man, I was just like, bleh, gagged me with a fork. Same thing with numbers. He would always talk about numbers, and I was not necessarily a numbers person. I have since then learned how to love my numbers, like genuinely, but that was not my main MO. I was scared of numbers. I didn't know how to look at them correctly. I didn't know what a P&L statement was or a balance sheet or any of that stuff, right? And so I'm diving in all this stuff, and he's trying to force, he's telling me this is the thing, Stephanie, these SOPs. And I was like, okay, cool. But it wasn't until I started this journey and I really leaned in, we let go of those clients, and it was like, okay, this is not the stuff that is actually in my zone of genius. So I think as an entrepreneur, it's super important to pay attention to where are you in flow and where do you experience massive frustration. And so I mentioned a training we just did this morning with my team. It's based off of the personality test, working genius. So where is your working genius? And so for me, I knew from the very beginning, consistency super low on my strengths finder. Like I don't like to be consistent to save my soul. And that's bit me in the rear a whole bunch of times. But what does that also mean? It also means that I'm able to be, I'm adaptive, I'm innovative, I move fast, right? So like there's these things that are great about who I am, but I also was hyper aware of my weaknesses. And so, and I knew SOPs and analyzing stuff and doing things consistently, not my jam. I can do those things. Absolutely, I can do them. Anybody can do them. But how much energy does it take? How do I feel after I do those things? I'm exhausted whenever I have to do it for a long period of time. And so, what I started to do right from there, as I remembered back to Billie Jean, I was like, okay, I need to have people in my business that can sustain those pieces, that can build SOPs, can enforce SOPs, can, do things consistently. So I can be over here and do my thing. And so that's what I started to do. And that was one of the most pivotal things in that scaling period whenever we let go of those clients and just hunkered down. And then what I did was I began to find this whole new gift that I knew was there, but whenever I started my business, it was out of survival, right? So I look up after building and growing and doing next thing, I'm very I go by feelings, right? I do a lot of decision making based off of intuition. I try to bring in logic and facts as well, but the default is intuition. So I had been hiring people and moving and doing these things, and when I looked up, I had this most incredible team. And having a team creates a whole new level of entrepreneurship where you have to grow. You have to level up. You have to learn how to lead well. You have to learn how to figure out and play within the guidelines so you're not going to screw up your business being your typical entrepreneurial self, because what got you, and this is an Alex Sharfinism, what got you to six figures, or $1 million is not necessarily what's going to take you to 5 million, right? Because you have to become someone different and you have to be willing to level up. That's why entrepreneurship is so absolutely incredible, because it helps you grow. Just like you said, personal development, right? I think there's three things in life that help us to grow, and that is marriage. Like, marriage will sharpen you. You will either grow or crack, one of the two, right? And it will make you into a better human. Parenting will make you into a better human because you have to learn how to love well and sacrifice. Same thing in marriage. And business is a lot of the same. Like, you have to learn how to love well and level up and sacrifice. And so in that next level, I had to learn how to not do things the way I did before, how to love and appreciate SOPs and numbers and all of this stuff. And so it was absolutely crazy incredible. But I brought in an integrator, started looking at more personality types, and started just understanding the gift that I had in this team. Again, it wasn't that I wasn't appreciative of them before, but I had this whole revelation of like, I didn't get into this and know that I was going to have such a beautiful gift. Like, I'd never had a team of my own. I'd only worked on other people's teams, and I'd learned what I never wanted to be working on those teams, right? And so I had the opportunity to lead people when they themselves are literally choosing to spend, almost more time with me and inside of Social Sparrow than they do with their own families, right? Like, if you really look at it during a week, they're spending more time with me doing my making. Yeah, so after diving in and recognizing what I had built and seeing it for the beauty that it was like, okay, wait, I'm playing a whole different game, and I have to be aware of that so that I can show up in a different way, and learn
Yeah.
how to show up as a leader.
I love that. So, Stephanie, I got a couple of questions for you because first thing most people do is build the business around themselves as the entrepreneur. Then they realize, oh man, I've got all these building blocks that are kind of around myself, and I am maybe a strategic thinker, maybe I'm an analytical thinker, maybe I make decisions emotionally, maybe I make decisions logically, and then you bring in more people into the mix and they function differently. Help us understand how, first of all, help us understand how you hired people, what was your style? And then how did you put them in the right place of success? Like, how did you figure out what their strengths and weaknesses are? It's already hard enough for us to figure that out for ourselves, but help us
Right.
understand how you essentially did that with multiple people, almost 18, 20 people from what you described.
Yeah, so I feel like I had a cheat code, honestly. Ex-gamer here. But yeah, I really do. I felt like I had like total cheat code, because I had a dear friend who was a Strengths Finder coach, and she had talked to me about Strengths Finder, it's a Gallup Strengths Finder personality test. And she had done this with me. Actually, it was the previous employer before I started my agency, before she sold the business. This was part of what she did. And man, whenever I saw all 34 strengths unlocked, and you can go on the site, it's like $49. You get all 34 strengths. You can kind of understand what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses. And so as soon as I saw what was at the bottom of my 34, um, It was a revelation. And so my strengths were a revelation too, but in a different way than my weaknesses were. And Strengths Finder is all about focusing on your strengths. But for me, it was like a cheat code. It was like, okay, wow, I am not good at consistency. And also deliberation is at the bottom of mine. So that just means I move fast. I don't take a lot of time to think through all the things, which has bit me in the rear sometimes. But it also makes me fast. Like I can innovate, I can come up with ideas and create and solve problems. And so, these things that I knew were at the bottom, whenever I was looking at the different aspects of this business that I had built, I was like, okay, all right, let's just take the simplest one. My very first hire was I was doing all the Facebook ads management for 12 clients, right? And so, what was driving me crazy? I felt like that was the biggest thing. What was driving me crazy in the work that I was doing that I could offload, that was pulling all of my energy? And what could I do that I felt like I was in flow and it felt awesome and I could do it all day, every day and wake up and just be like ready to go? And for me, it was very much so in relation to those weaknesses. And it was getting into the ads manager and having to analyze the data and then go pull and make this creative and do that. While that's fun for me in spurts, don't ask me to do that for a long period of time. I will peter out and I will be disenchanted. It's just, and I learned that about myself. I pressed through for the sake of my family for as long as I could. But then, that first hire was someone who would be fine with hammering the nail over and over the same way every day. Whereas
Yeah, so
I'm like,
essentially the first talent, I think what you're recommending is to find someone that's in your weaker zones. So then
yes.
that way they can lift and re-energize you and kind of protect your energy in a sense.
Yeah, because most likely, and then there are variations to this, so you got to think it through. But most likely, whenever the thing that is in flow is usually going to be the thing that's actually going to be the needle mover and your real leverage inside of your business, so that you can pull big levers and make big things happen. It's like as soon as I had this revelation, I remember a year or two later, I remember the first time I ever hired somebody to come in and like help at my house. They were just going to come in like once a month and just reset my bathroom and my kitchen and like do some deep cleaning. And someone had said something to me. They were like, Stephanie, how much now do you think you might make in an hour, right? And let's just say at that time it was like, oh yeah, I make like, I don't know, I would think like if I bring on a client and do this and do that, and it kind of like broke it down in some weird way. And I was like, maybe, I don't know, $75 an hour or something like that. I don't know. And at that time, she was like, how much would it cost? Like, what could you do in your business if you outsourced someone doing your cleaning for you and someone doing this? Like, how much time? Like, they broke it down for me. How much time do you spend making meals? How much time do you spend cleaning? How much time do you spend doing this? And like, once I broke it down and then you did the math, it was like, wow, I'm being dumb. Like, this is stupid. Like, I have to optimize my time to focus on the things that are going to move the needle forward the most to get the best outcomes. And then the second thing I did, so the first thing was definitely hiring from my weaknesses so that I was girding up my team because I knew I could run with all the other things. But secondarily, I did make a choice early on that I wanted to invest in women or men. We have men on the team too, but it was women for a long time, just moms who wanted to be able to bring income into their home but not leave their kids or just be to work from home. And so I had determined that from the very beginning. So almost every single hire I have ever made, we have trained from the ground up. So we've
Wow.
not hired from someone who already had experience until very, very literally like within the past month or two. We've always hired someone who didn't have any experience for the most part. And so that has been something that has done multiple things. For one, it was in alignment with my vision of supporting women who were like me whenever I was trying to figure out some way to make some money from home. For two, it optimized because, man, stay-at-home mamas are beasts, okay? They're managing so many multiples of things. They're awesome, right? And I don't mind if your kid shows up on a call. I don't mind if you're going to run them over to the park and do work from the park. Like, I don't care. Like, let's do that. And then thirdly, it also helped me because these people weren't bringing the skills to the table yet. I had to train the skills into them. So they did come in at a lower level, which enabled my agency to have more profit margin to work to continue to build the business.
I love that. By the way, that is so beautiful that you had the vision to just kind of sew back in and like really just like reinvest back into your journey by bringing folks in your similar pathway, right? So it's really cool seeing that and just kind of the fruits of the labor coming out of it. So you're at this point 70 or 100 clients, is that right? If I remember
70,
correctly?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So
Hmm.
these are, so I assume now it's like you're focused on the culture that you're building and leadership that
Yes.
you're building, right? Help us understand where you are in today's world of building the team, finding the hat, the mama hat while being the CEO. Tell us today's world, in general, just like what does that feel like? What does it look like? What are you working on? Like help us understand that.
Yeah, so it's a little crazy, but what's beautiful about what I've been able to build is that I do, like I said, have this really solid, incredible team. I have an incredible operations manager. We've got lots of systems and processes and checks, and we also have middle management now, so that helps out with a lot of things as well. And so now it definitely looks like I've got more time freedom. And so one of the things that I fell in love with, I used to do coaching inside of Russell's 2 Comma Club X program long time ago, and it was insane. Like I was coaching hundreds of entrepreneurs in any industry, like every industry, all the industries. And whenever I did that, I did it for about a year or so. And I fell in love with coaching. And so coaching has been a part of my life ever since then on side by side with my agency. So I also, have this coaching business, but it's not like what you would see like, these big coaching programs. It's very much like, oh, you're amazing. I want to help you. Like, let's dive in together. And so that's on the side. And then that's been consistent for a long time now. And then I also have a passion for parenting. So I have a podcast, and that's what I mentioned earlier. So just helping entrepreneurs to have parenting in mind, and how do we parent powerfully in our lives. So while I'm a little more divided now, the cool part is it's all in alignment with my dream and my vision, like I spoke about before. And I have things in place in order to be able to do what I'm doing right now. And so it's absolutely incredible. My focus with Social Sparrow, our focuses are definitely culture. Like just even this morning, the training that we did, I hired a professional, Dr. William Attaway. He came in and did that training on working genius. And the goal there, what is it? It's just that culture. We care about each other. We want to know each other. We also want to foster an environment where people have personal development, where we're pulling back the layers of the onion and being able to show up as our true, authentic self, because that's how Social Sparrow is going to win, and that's how we contribute back to the world by helping people grow, right? And so we focus on culture, but then I'm also really focused in with my operations manager on what are the big levers that are going to make Social Sparrow not just stay, but continue to grow in a healthy way, right? Without overwhelming the team, without underperforming for the clients, right? Which is the agency life, right? How do we keep that balance, right? And so those are the main things that we focus on in Social Sparrow and our initiatives. It's not so much, well, the team handles, most all the other things that used to fill my day. They've got it. They've become these beasts and professional A players that just slay. And so we get to work on those higher level things. And I have that time freedom with my family, which is just the most important thing to me, period. While there are demands and there are seasons still, like what I described before, like I had a one just here recently where I was head down, and my family knew that, and we talked through it. It's like, Mama, it's going to look like this. Mama's going to be real busy, not like normal, where I'm making sourdough in the middle of the day, right? Like I'm going to be head down, and you're just going to see the back of Mama's head. Come in and hug it all you want, but in general, I have that control. I said yes to that intentionally, right? Um, I'm so grateful that I feel like I've come from a place where I used to think that life was happening to me, right? But now I've come to learn and understand to slow down in the moments that, like, okay, this terrible, horrible thing is happening right now. That is not what I expected. This is awful. Awesome. I'm going to grow. Something good is going to come out from this, right? Like I'm finally had enough of these circumstances that I don't have to default to freaking out and the whole world is blowing. I mean, I might feel that way for like, I give my emotions a hot second, y'all. Maybe it needs 24 hours, whatever. But like, ultimately, I know historically speaking that the worst things can happen. I can have, 5 clients quit, or this over here happens, or whatever, or this breaks, and, whatever the world, life throws your way. But now I've seen it enough to where I know, like, okay, this is going to suck, but we're going to batten down the hatches and there's something better on the other side of this. And it's actually going to be better than where you are right now. And so being able to be in this place now where I'm not done, obviously, there's still more to grow, more to do, more to build. But to come to this place where I no longer am coming from a place of victimhood, I think is where I was coming from originally. Just poverty mindset, just super, like I'm never going to make it, just all this striving. It's like, I don't have enough. I'm not going to be enough. And like being able to kind of come back around and finally kind of put that way of thinking to the side because it wasn't actually serving me. And it can't come with me to the place I have to become in order to keep moving and to keep growing. And so with my family and the business and everything that we're doing, nobody is perfect, but I think that's the theme right now for me is like, how can I show up powerfully for my family, and how can I show up powerfully for my husband and my friends, and how do I show up powerfully for my team and my clients? Um, and that might look different, you know, depending on the season. But I hope that answered your question. I know I went on a couple rabbit trails
Absolutely.
there, but
No, no, no. I love it. I appreciate you sharing. So, can you help us understand? Well, one thing I forgot to even ask you about was like high level. Like, what is your journey with high level in general? Like, I know we've came a long way from the old days of when half the things didn't work. I get that.
yeah.
Now it's like it's turning into this bigger cruise liner, and we're trying to figure out, how to navigate. Help us understand how your customers or even teams or even like prospects, like how are they baked into high level? What does the assembly line look like now that it's kind of synchronized? You have a lot of processes in place. Help us
Oh yeah.
understand the world of high level for you.
Oh man. So I think I don't know what number I am or whatever, but I think I was one of the first adopters. And Robin Alex was in the same mastermind that we
Yeah,
were in. And so I knew
yeah.
Robin as a friend, and we'd chatted on and off over the years and seen each other at events. And so he comes to a group of us with this awesome software, and he's like, I think this is gonna be, I think this is gonna be something. It's gonna be amazing. And so we dove in. I think it took me just a little bit to actually adopt and fully move because of the where we were in our business. And so, but we started implementing utilizing high level for all of our clients. And so we don't, I mean, I have a SaaS model, but we don't actively push that. The way we utilize high level is for our clients, and we like internally our clients are in high level, but it's a partnership inside of high level. And it has been literally the most game changing thing inside of my agency, especially in those early realm. I mean, now it's like if you have an agency and you don't have high level, it's like, are you even an agency? I don't even know. I don't know that you have a leg to stand on. I just don't. But from those early stages, it was the game changer because I don't know about you guys, but for me in my industry, it is all about being able to protect your client from themselves, honestly. And before, all the client's information, all the data lived outside of my reach. And inside of my reach, I'm able to say, all right, we generated this many leads for this amount. This many have been booked. This many people actually showed up, and this is how many have been won. And to me, you're able to easily see where is the problem and how do we fix the problem. And that alone right there has, I would say, one of the sole reasons that Social Sparrow has been able to do what we've been able to do, because without that transition, I can't actually help my client, because my client in general in this industry will self-sabotage. And I
Yeah.
think that's true across many, many, many different industries. But the truth is there's nuances to selling to cold traffic if you're running cold traffic like we are. And many people can come in and they're like, oh, I'm the best closer ever. You're 90%, 95%. And I'm like, well, do you ever close cold leads? And it's like this, oh yeah, sure, uh-huh. And but like they get in there and then their close rate goes to like 15 to 20%, and then we can't be successful
Yeah.
together. And so then you have to learn, all right, here's how you close cold traffic, right? Oh, your booking percentage is only at 40%. We have to have 70% for you to be successful. And then
Yeah.
here's how we're going to get to 70%. Here's what needs to improve. And high level made that possible. Before, it was like a conglomerate of all these different softwares, and most of which I didn't have access to in my clients' purview, like their EHRs and things like that. And it handicapped us, and high level set us free. We were able to deliver in a way that other agencies weren't able to do, and able to think about our partnership together in a way that we hadn't been
Yeah.
able to do before because we just didn't have access,
Yeah.
so it's been incredible.
Yeah, I remember the old days of running Facebook ads to like dental clients, and we would slap it all into like an Excel sheet. And we don't know if they called, if they messaged,
Yeah.
like we have no idea what happened after the leads were essentially, given to them. And then that basically means you're at the mercy of what they did after the leads were generated. So it's like
Yep.
you don't have any authority in the relationship as a provider, as a marketing
Yep.
provider. And most of them like you said, they think they're great at sales, but that's because they've been dealing with word of mouth and referrals their whole business. And then when you
Yep.
shift into cold traffic, it's like you're gonna get, like Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan till they get punched in the face. You
Yes.
know, everybody's got a
100%.
plan. And that's what happens with these clients back in the day. Even now, that's what happens with most agency owners. They don't have the authority and the credibility with the client relationship. And I think high level sets you free by providing a consolidated hub, a
Yep.
data center, an operating system, whatever you want to call it. And how does this impact your team? Like, how do they get involved in it? Do you have like a
Oh
one
yeah.
like high level expert, or does everybody use it? Or like how do you enable your team to get it to high level?
Yeah, so our team is in high level. We all live in high level, as for our clients' sake. We're in there looking at the booking percentages, the show percentages, how many people did the client close, and we have a framework inside of our business to kind of keep all of that accountable and to do reporting based on those factors. But yes, inside of our team, we do have a tech department now. And so it's kind of funny because whenever we started using high level, the more and more and more and more we started using it, the more and more and more we started to realize, whoa, like we're actually like, I think it took me a longer time than the average bear, but I was like, we're supporting a software. Like, whoa, like what is happening? I didn't realize I was going to sign up for this, but we've innovated so much inside of our high level, and we call it the nest, that we have IP in there, like things that we have thought of that, is incredibly, intense and wonderful and awesome, because as a client problem arose, we figured out how to solve it with high level. Right.
Yeah.
And so it has
And
been
it's and it's totally, just to be frank, high level is overwhelming. Like
yeah,
it can be a lot for someone
yeah,
brand new. And there's hundreds and hundreds of features. A lot of it is customizable. So if you don't know the psychology of marketing or sales, you will probably struggle with high level because you wouldn't know how to integrate certain features a certain way where
yeah.
it's designed for something else. But yeah, keep going, keep going.
Yeah, no, you're so right. You're so right. And so, but I kind of had this awakening, if you will, to like, okay, yeah, I mean, I'm not a software owner, but I'm a software owner. Like, I have to support this software both internally and with the client. Whoa, what does this look like? And so, how do we have a ticketing system? What do we want this to feel like? Do we want to outsource this? Do we want to keep it in house? Like,
Mm,
so many
yep.
questions, because it gets to be a lot. There's a lot to it, especially whenever you're utilizing so much of
Yeah.
high level for your business, and then it's all working together. And then if there's
Yeah.
updates or this or that, so we have a whole tech team internal that
Yeah.
works on this. It's a team of, well, it was a team of three, now it's a team of five. We just hired two new individuals, and so they are masterminding issues that arise, that come up, whether it just be user error or it is something that has changed in our workflows, or maybe it's a high level issue, like whatever comes up, our tech team works to do that, and also in innovation. So
Yeah.
we'll have an idea and we'll take it to the tech team. All right, we want to do this. How would we do this? And then we work
Yeah.
together to figure it out.
And the benefit you have is you get to keep your clients and retain them compared to the old days of churning them out without that, accountability. Now, and I bet, your pressure on sales changed too, because you don't have to deal
Oh
with
yeah.
that much churn like the old days where we all had to go get new 5, 10 new clients like every 2 weeks to kind of maintain the business. Now it's like, okay, how do I take my 50, 60, 70 clients and stabilize them to be
Oh yeah.
my flagship book of business for the future, right? It's a whole different
Yes.
mindset change.
It really is. And the beautiful thing about it is, now that we have like our SaaS version built out, like if someone for whatever reason, let's just say we have someone come in and they're just not, they aren't learning the sales aspect, and they're incredibly uncomfortable because it really is a whole different nuance of how they need to approach sales. And so some adapt, most adapt, and some don't. And for those who don't, the cool part is we actually have it built to where they can downgrade and they can use the software and they can even run their own ads and they can do all this stuff, and until they get back to, because trust me, they're not going to want to do that by themselves for very long, but they can do that for a season and a period, and then come back around, and it's just so awesome to have the capability of doing that. But it, high level has truly become something that, um I don't know. I can't imagine. I remember how we did it before, but I can't ever imagine having to go back to that, because it was just like you said. Yeah, we had the Excel spreadsheet and all the leads were just dumped off in there. And believe me, Paulson, I made columns for them to fill out for when they
Yeah.
followed up and how many times they even gave us scripts. But was that ever filled out? No. But we can see it all in high level. It's right there. We even are now, we've built out our own internal lead care coordinator team that actually will follow up the
Yeah.
leads on behalf of our clients.
Yeah.
And that's been game changing too. And the capabilities inside of high level support, having that kind of call
Yeah.
center, if you will.
I think you said it best earlier. The authority of the relationship came back to you as an agency owner. The
Yes.
power came back to you because you have like a truth, a place of truth that you can go
Yes.
off of.
Yeah. That is
And
non
that
emotional. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Stephanie, I appreciate you jumping in on a podcast. We talked about, going from the homeschooling mom to a seven-figure operator, and we shared a bunch of different things. I appreciate your time. Any final thoughts, any final words? And by the way, are you coming to our event, mastermind, or conference, or whatever? If you are, I would love to see you there.
Oh, for
But
sure, for sure.
okay,
I
okay.
can't make this one that's coming up, the advanced one. It was killing me
Oh
inside.
yeah, yeah,
I have a,
yeah, yeah.
I have a previous engagement, but the one after that, I think in July or whatever I'm planning on being at.
All good. Okay.
But yeah, final thoughts is just for anybody who's listening. I would hopefully my story encourages you, because the entrepreneurial journey is one that it's incredibly hard, but it is literally the best thing ever, ever in life to find yourself in the midst of that journey, right? Because it's going to sharpen you. It's going to be hard. It's going to be, hot in the kitchen. It's going to be all the things, and it's especially hard to start. And I know I kind of gave the synopsis of, how did I start? And it's a simplified version. I don't. There's a lot of things that I tried before I started this agency. I mentioned the candle carving. I had a pocket beagle breeding business. I sold LuLaRoe. I sold beauty control. Like, so many failed attempts, you guys, at starting something. And it's okay to fail, and it will work if you just don't give up. And so I hope that this is an encouragement to you that that if you don't quit, you're going to make it. It's just a matter of leaning in.
I love that, Stephanie. Well, I appreciate you inspiring all of us and sharing. And I'm sure we're going to see you grow within the lights of the community and more. So excited for it. And those of you that are watching, thanks for watching another segment of our podcast. In case if you are on the fence about high level and haven't jumped in, there could be like a link in our YouTube channel somewhere for a 30-day trial. Feel free to jump in. But either way, thank you, Stephanie.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll see you later.